Today we're going to be talking about all the hacks at MSNBC. These people are nothing but propagandists who have an agenda and put out narratives to further the plans of the elite, of the so-called elite. I don't like calling them elite. I hate that. But anyways, I'm going to give multiple examples of how they put out these stories and tell a bunch of lies. And whenever their narrative they're pushing fails, they never come out with the stories talking about how actually they were wrong. Therefore, if somebody watches nothing but MSNBC for their news, they are severely misinformed on a bunch of topics. And so I want to go and show some of these examples today because I fucking think it's awful how these people are just allowed to do this and it's okay when they know they're just putting out lies. I don't get how anybody can work there and do this because I feel like it has to rot your soul, and your soul has to be nothing. You have to probably drink adrenochrome to fucking work there. Who knows? But anyways, let's get into it.
And last night, by the way, Tucker attacked my colleague Brandy Zadrozny, who was co-violent on almost all of these stories. Not me. He attacked Brandy, of course, but he attacked Brandy, and he went right back into this idea that some they is trying to groom your kids, trying to sexualize your children, right? Yeah. Who's the they, first of all?
That's how Club Q or any event would sort of get on the radar of these extremists, is that they promoted when these events were happening and saying, here's another example of grooming, of targeting children. So that was how this got operationalized. And, well, at this point, it's deprogramming. I think that's the first part, but obviously there's no easy way to do that. I think the clearest answer is that media as a whole have to give context. The Republican Party is taking this stuff from the fringes, and they are actually operationalizing this hate.
Race theory had a good run as the GOP's favorite attack line on the left, but it seems that groomer has become the right's new buzzword of choice. But you know what they say, every accusation is an admission. Take Patricia Kent, a Utah woman who founded a right-wing political group that has attacked drag shows and who herself has claimed that drag queens were, quote, grooming our children for immoral satanic worship. Turns out she's the same woman who had her teaching certificate revoked 25 years ago by the Utah State Board of Education for unprofessional conduct, including inappropriate relationships with students that were, quote, too familiar. Kent has denied those allegations. And then, of course, there's conservative firebrand Jim Jordan. The GOP can't seem to attend a hearing without putting him front and center. Before he was a congressman, Jim Jordan used to do all of his yelling as former assistant wrestling coach at The Ohio State University, where 8 former student wrestlers have accused him of ignoring sexual abuse allegations about a team doctor back in the 1990s. Jordan denies any wrongdoing. There's also Roy Moore, and let's not forget the ones who served time in prison, including the former Republican Speaker of the House, Denny Hastert, who spent 13 months in prison after admitting to sexually abusing young boys. The judge called him a serial child molester. The former GOP House Speaker, how can we never hear his name? And earlier this year, an ex-GOP staffer who helped design social media ads for Donald Trump's re-election campaign was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison for trading in child pornography. So this is the environment in which Governor DeSantis' press secretary, Christina Pushaw, has smeared Democrats as groomers. So what are we to make of this new New York Times story that DeSantis reportedly attended student parties when he was a high school teacher 20 years ago, with one alum telling the Times, as an 18-year-old, I remember thinking, what are you doing here, dude?
So he says every accusation is an admission, but then goes on to accuse multiple people whom I've never even heard of the same thing that they're accusing the other side. And not once does he condemn the action of it. He just says, look, they've been charged with it too, or they've been accused of it too. And I don't understand how you can not once talk about how awful that any of these people are getting accused of doing anything with fucking minors. Like, if you're doing sexual acts with a minor, fuck you. I don't give a fuck about your political party if you're doing that shit. And nobody should either. We need to stop these bullshit with these R's and D's and how people just will line up ideologically with every topic on every issue with their side. It's bullshit. When it comes to this minor shit, it's the end. I also find it funny that after I watched that video, I just typed in MSNBC John Podesta, and I go and fucking click on videos of you and him fucking well after all that shit came out about him.
With Clinton and Obama. So who better to ask about what Joe Biden will face than former chief of staff to Bill Clinton and former counselor to Barack Obama, John Podesta, who's also founder and director of the Center for American Progress. He joins me now. John, thanks so much for coming on the show. The Washington Post has said about you,
And so there you are platforming a fucking groomer. So you make no sense. You have no fucking moral high ground. You are not better than anyone, sir. That whole fucking news coverage right there just further proves how much of a piece of shit you and your fucking station are. With everything with the Balenciaga story coming to light, I decided to see if MSNBC has done any kind of coverage of this, because they went really heavy with saying that groomers are not real and this is just a fantasy in the mind of a Republican. But then when the details come out that highlight groomers in the fashion industry, you don't see them give any sort of coverage to any of it. So this is very concerning. They are not for the news, they don't cover the news. They are for narratives and agenda, and they push propaganda. I think it's very important to look into the finances of all these companies who put out news. When you see who's the biggest stakeholder of the biggest media companies, you basically see the same three. You see Vanguard, you see BlackRock, and you see State Street. So if the same three companies are the biggest stakeholders in all the media companies, do you think that they could perhaps influence what gets put out? Or do you think that's too cynical? Do you think that's just a conspiracy, as MSNBC would say? Conspiracy theory. I find it very important to know what you're watching and who is it coming from. Any of the big media companies out there, there is definitely an agenda behind all of them, whether you're on the left or the right. I'm not saying don't watch MSNBC. I'm just saying know what you're watching. So if you're always watching Fox, CNN, or MSNBC, then your mind is probably filled with nothing but propaganda. And I would advise you to maybe turn the TV off for a while, read a book, go outside, talk to someone who maybe appears of the opposite political party than you, and just see that, hey, we're all humans, we're all trying to fucking just maintain and do good in life. And at the end of the day, we all want the same things, man. We want security, we want happiness, and we want love. But these media companies every day put out stories that further divide the country and promote more hate. And when we have these stories like Balenciaga coming out, showing that there is actual real evil in the world, and then these big media conglomerates like MSNBC are not making their viewers aware of it, it's a huge issue. You can't just point out the faults of one side and try to hide the faults of the other. When it comes to news and media, I wish it was 100% put out with good intentions and honesty, but we all know that's just not true. But anyways, thank you for taking the time to watch. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you liked it. If you're a troll, give me your worst burn. I like it. I'm just kidding. But anyways, hey, thank you guys so much. And yeah, see you again soon. Peace.